On what was supposed to be the long holiday weekend, quickly rising floodwaters devastated many parts of Central Texas, killing more than 100 men, women, and children, and leaving even more missing.
Our hope and prayer is that there are still people alive that are out there, and we are still actively searching for them.
This week on Inside the Investigation, reporters Christopher Adams and Brianna Hollis break down the desperate search for missing campers and loved ones.
I love her and I want her to be safe. I know she's strong.
And the Director of Investigations and Innovation, Josh Hinkle, explains the concerns surrounding preparedness and response from officials at all levels. Hi, Bree.
Hello.
Okay, how are you?
We're pretty good. We've been running around, but just stopped for a sec. So we're going to take like a breather for 45 minutes or so, then jump back out there.
Well, I'm glad you're taking a breather with me for a little while.
Yeah.
So, Bree, you've been out there in Kerr County for how long? When did you get to Kerr?
On Friday, on the 4th of July. I've come back a couple of times, but so Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, today's Wednesday.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
So yeah, this is my sixth day here. I think the moment and the location that has stuck with me the most is the HTR campgrounds in Ingram. And Ingram is just west of Kerrville. It was hit a little bit harder than Kerrville itself. That is where I spoke with a father and son duo who were there physically searching the muddy and debris-filled riverbank for their parents/grandparents who were camping in an RV there along the river. And it was really surreal because there's this paved path, and they had told me that was kind of the road and the path that went in between all of the RVs and the tiny homes that are there, and everything was gone. There was absolutely nothing there. Their parents, grandparents were at campsite 47. This is a site that I'll never forget. And the sign that has the campsite number is just toppled over there. And they were just looking at an empty lot with that. And downstream, was just debris everywhere. You could see pieces of RVs in trees and in crumpled piles. And seeing that with the combination of speaking to this wonderful family was the most heartbreaking part of being out here so far.
Have they been able to find or hear about their grandparents since you spoke with them?
I got word this morning from one of the family members that they found the remains of the grandfather. So still missing his wife at this point, but that news came in this morning to me.
I'm sorry, Bree. What would you say to people who are trying to understand the scale of the loss that's happened in Kerr County and across Central Texas?
That I keep wanting to use the word unimaginable, but I feel like that's not fair because it's happening. So you don't have to imagine it. That's, I feel like, sums up a lot of it. It's even the people who aren't directly impacted are impacted by a third degree. You know, everybody knows someone who is missing, everyone who knows someone who has passed away. And I feel like there are countless stories about people who are searching or don't know what to do or who are waiting for answers, and the magnitude of it is you don't even know how to describe it. It's all everybody is talking about. It's the fact that people are physically looking for their own family members is something that I personally have never seen in any natural disaster that I've ever encountered. So I think that kind of sums up the scale.
Bree, thank you for taking time to speak with us. And
Always.
I know that this can't be easy for you to have to hear these stories. So I appreciate you doing that work.
Yeah, of course. Thanks for chatting with me and letting me talk about some of the wonderful people that I've met here.
Okay, well, I'll talk to you soon.
Bye.
Bye.
Okay, so that was our reporter, Brianna Hollis, and I'm in the KXAN Plus studio now, here with digital data reporter Christopher Adams and our Director of Investigations and Innovation, Josh Hinkle. Thank you guys for coming in.
Good to be with you.
Thank you.
So, Christopher, let's start with you. We just heard from Bree, who's been in Kerr County for the better part of this week, and she described a scenario we've heard many times since July 4th, which is families searching desperately for their loved ones. And in some cases, they're being reunited. And in many cases, they're learning that the person that they're searching for did not survive. Me and you have been tasked with keeping track of those who are missing and who've passed away. Let's talk about the scale of the devastation.
Right, and it's so hard to fathom the scale because the destruction has been so widespread. We have confirmed deaths in 6 counties across central Texas. I do want to rewind and kind of talk about the timeline of when this all started. It happened early on July 4th, and heavy rain in Kerr County caused the Guadalupe River to spill its banks. The first flash flood warning was issued around 1:15 that morning, and by about 3 or 4, we know the river was coming into people's homes and camps.
And we should set the scene. Kerr County is in the hill country. It's about 100 miles southwest of Austin. The hardest hit areas were Kerrville, Hunt, Ingram, and Centerpoint. And there are several summer camps that are dotted along the Guadalupe River throughout the county, including Camp Mystic, an all-girls Christian summer camp that's been there for nearly a century.
Right, and the destruction at Camp Mystic itself has been nothing short of catastrophic. Camp leaders say they have 27 campers and counselors who were killed in this flash flooding. They updated their website earlier this week with a statement. I'll read it here in part. Our hearts are broken alongside our families that are enduring this unimaginable tragedy. We are praying for them constantly. Now, camp officials say they are also in pretty much constant communication with state and local first responders to find the missing, and there are still missing from this flooding that happened a week ago already. We're recording this as of Thursday morning, and right now there are still 5 campers and 1 counselor missing from Camp Mystic.
The heroic efforts of people that worked in those camps, directors of the camps, people who owned the camps, who not just risked their lives, gave their lives to try to go save the lives of those kids.
Now, they also said they are in pretty much constant communication with local and state officials who are still trying to find the missing. Here we are a week after this flooding, and there are still hundreds of people missing in Kerr County. We're recording this on Thursday morning, and as of now, from Camp Mystic alone, there are 5 campers and 1 counselor who are still unaccounted for.
And the death toll at Camp Mystic really illustrates the reach of this tragedy. Some of these little girls were students from Austin ISD, some were from Dallas, Houston, Alabama, all over. And we're seeing tributes to these girls across the nation as well. But the floods didn't just impact Camp Mystic. Tell us the county-wide picture.
Yeah, so again, as of Thursday morning, there are still 161 people missing in Kerr County alone. That is on top of the 97 confirmed deaths that officials have said so far.
And those numbers don't include the dozens of others killed and missing in other parts of central Texas.
Right, so we had another round of flash flooding that hit the night after, going into July 5th in Burnett County, parts of Travis and Williamson counties as well. Overall, statewide, there are at least 120 deaths confirmed at this point. Outside of Kerr County, there have been 8 deaths in Kendall County, 7 in Travis County, 5 in Burnett County, 3 deaths in Williamson County, and 1 death in Tom Green County. And as of right now, outside of Kerr County, there are still 10 people missing, most of those here in Travis County, but one of those missing people is in Burnett County. We know that is the Marble Falls area volunteer fire department chief who was swept away during a water rescue. Now, statewide, we have at this point 172 people still missing, again, a week after the flood. And officials are stressing that could be an undercount because they don't know how many people were visiting the area from outside, people on vacation who don't necessarily live here, Kelly.
City crews, county crews, and state crews are working extremely hard to help in this situation. I want the public to know we are doing everything we can to rescue those who are in peril and to find those who are missing.
Christopher, thank you so much. I want to shift now to Josh, who leads our investigative team. Josh, it's been a week since the flash floods began, and our team has been asking some hard questions about how prepared Kerr County and our state was for this weather event.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Immediately people started asking questions about what was happening during these warnings and when they went out and then when the evacuations actually started. You got to understand this is an area of the hill country that is already prone to flooding. People have known that for years because of the makeup of the land. And with hours just seeming to respond after getting those warnings, the public was demanding answers. And we are in a position to ask those kinds of questions at the press conferences. So we are really trying to work for the people that can't be there in front of those public officials to get those questions in front of them right away.
Let's go through some of these concerns. Number one, the National Weather Service. We know that the National Weather Service has faced recent budget and staffing cuts, and people are starting to wonder if that was a part of the problem. Let's start there.
Yeah, well, just one day into the recovery effort, the chief of the Texas Division of Emergency Management said the National Weather Service forecast the state received did not predict the amount of rain and the specifics of the flooding event that actually happened. And what we have heard from officials so far is that this weather event was unprecedented. They were not expecting that this amount of rain would actually fall. And to address concerns about staffing cuts, we spoke with the Weather Services Employees Union about how the vacancies that we have heard about that have come from the Trump administration, how they have actually impacted the local office here in the Austin-San Antonio area, which covers Kerr County. And the union said that staffing that night actually was adequate, but broadly the cuts could hurt future response to weather events across the nation.
And the governor and state officials have been giving press conferences daily, sometimes twice daily. I was at the governor's press conference on Sunday, and we did get to ask him about this.
There are currently 6 vacancies in the local National Weather Service office that cover Kerr County. What is your perspective on how that could have impacted the warnings that you all were able to get and how accurate the information you all were able to get?
So I know nothing about the staffing. What I do know is what they put out. And it's my understanding that what they put out was kind of the information that the state was operating off of, and that is that there were alerts or warnings about heavy rain, potential for flash flooding in certain areas. A problem with that is that to most people in the area, flash flooding would mean one thing, not what it turned out to be.
Since then, other leaders have called for an investigation into NOAA, which is the parent organization of the National Weather Service, and some have even called for a restoration of the funds to the National Weather Service, which we have already talked about has been responsible for some staffing cuts and some vacancies that we've seen even here in the local office in Texas. Governor Abbott also told us at that point he would be addressing these issues surrounding the flood in a special legislative session that is set to start in just over a week at the Capitol. And we know it will likely resurrect a failed bill that came up during the regular session this year that would have ushered in some more funding and hopefully a flood warning system that more government agencies and different state agencies could help tap statewide.
Josh, we've heard questions at these press conferences about the timing of code red notifications, which subscribers should get during weather emergencies on their cell phone.
Yeah, that's exactly right. The Kerr County Sheriff said they are going to look into an after-action report to specifically address that, among other issues. Largely what we've seen in these press conferences is local officials and some state officials deflecting some of the questions because they're not ready to answer these at this time. They say they're still focused on recovery, and so we're still going to continue asking those things. But the county did just adopt a hazard mitigation action plan a few months ago. What we learned from that plan was that leaders have known about the potential for increased flooding in that area for years. And our research has also shown at least a decade of failed or in progress attempts to get funding to install some type of flood warning system in Kerr County, which it currently doesn't have, something like sirens, for instance. Despite those details, local leaders continue claiming that they didn't know that this flood was coming, even though history shows it's happened before, and this plan shows it will happen again. One of the latest things we actually discovered was we got an audio file from a source that is a firefighter who called in hours before the height of the flood to Kerr County Sheriff's dispatchers, asking them to issue a code red in certain parts of Kerr County at that time. We're trying to get more answers about that specifically, but it's helping paint a picture of what was happening during those critical hours and any possible delays that local leaders made when it came to things like evacuations.
And delays in this case are going to matter because this flash flooding, it did happen quickly. So people have been wondering what the camp's emergency plan was and if they had one. It's worth noting that the state's officials said the water, again, rose quickly in a matter of 40 minutes or so in the middle of the night. But let's talk about the records we found as it relates to Camp Mystic's emergency plan.
And what we learned is that summer camps are not required to have an emergency plan on file with the state, but they are supposed to have one that is posted in their buildings at each camp that's in Texas. And so an inspector from the state will come around to inspect each camp to see if they meet all these safety regulations, including whether they have these emergency plans, which includes the ways that evacuation should happen posted. It turns out that Camp Mystic had that inspection and passed that inspection just 2 days before this flood. So we do know that they were, above board when it came to safety for these campers. Some questions that still are being asked are about the cell phones that were being used at the camp. We do know that the counselors did have cell phones. The campers were not allowed to use cell phones at the time. So any of those emergency alerts, we're trying to figure out, did those go out to the cell phones at the time? We also know from those inspection records that the camp had an emergency phone in case the cell phones went down. They would have been able to use that. But again, like you said, this happened very fast. So it all really comes down to the timing of those notifications and how soon people at that camp and other places along the river knew.
Josh, looking more broadly at this flood has become a political issue nationally and here in Texas. This is what the governor had to say at a press conference in Kerr County when a reporter asked him, who is to blame here?
You ask, I'm going to use your words. Who's to blame? Know this. That's the word choice of losers. The way winners talk is not to point fingers. They talk about solutions.
Along with Governor Abbott, you've also heard President Trump talk about the politicization of this issue, and even Senator Ted Cruz has accused some people of partisan finger pointing. We've heard from many officials that this is definitely an issue that is making it all the way to Congress, and people are obviously upset about this, but I think the way it's going to play out, even on the political spectrum, is going to be very interesting.
And there's been some public infighting that we've seen. Local officials are signaling that they may have been left out of the loop when it came to the state's response.
Yeah, that's exactly right. The Kerrville mayor, for instance, said he was part of no calls ahead of the flood, even though the Texas Division of Emergency Management has said that it made personal phone calls to the mayors and the judges in the flood-prone areas beforehand. Also, that he didn't know about any emergency resources that may have been stationed in the Kerr County area before the flood actually hit. We have asked state leaders for more details on that, and also requested a lot of record of communications so we could better understand the timing of some of that talking between officials and any notifications that went out. Obviously, we're waiting on those things still because they're in active recovery mode, but once we get those, we will definitely report those back to you.
Josh, Christopher, thank you so much for joining us today. If you want to know more about the victims of the flooding event, or if you want to know how to help, we have resources. You can go to KXAN.com. We release a new episode every Friday morning on the KXAN Investigates podcast. You can also watch us on our KXAN Plus app, which is available on Apple TV, Amazon Fire TV, and Roku. I'm Kelly Wiley. See you next time.